Hello! It's me, Cousin Steve, and I'm here to help you understand some key Supreme Court cases of what is known as the President Jackson era. First one is none other than Mcculloch v. Maryland in 1819. What this Supreme Court case did was that it declared that the National Bank of the United States was constitutionally based on the power that Congress had to pass laws that are deemed necessary and proper for the survival of the United States. Then we get Gibbons v. Ogden, which happens in 1824. This case gives the legal right that Congress can regulate trade between states. So, it's like corn and strawberries between Florida and Illinois. Things like that. Now, the next two cases, they're very important because they really tie together. Kind of like the civil rights cases in the 60s. They're really important and tie into each other. This is the first one being the Cherokee Nation v. Georgia, which happens in 1831. This court case, the Cherokee attempt to fight the Indian Removal Act, which we'll get into later. Now, the judge for I don't know which case, I think it was this one, but I'm not sure, was John Marshall. He ruled that Georgia could not interfere with the Cherokee, which is later enforced by Worcester v. Georgia in 1832. This basically ruled that the Cherokee people were a distinct territory, and in fact a different nation, that Georgia had no legal right to interfere with them. And this sounds great and awesome, but then we get into a problem. President Jackson, who gave us this Indian Removal Act, flat out ignores these two court cases completely. Now that I mentioned him, let's talk about Andrew Jackson. Oh, great, it's doing it again. It won't. Okay. Andrew Jackson. How do I describe Andrew Jackson? Well, I do know one thing. He was very popular among the common man. He wanted equal rights for all white men, and he formed the Democratic Party with his supporters and expanded the role of the president. This gave him the nickname of King Andrew. Now, he was from the South. He thought that African Americans, all they were worth for was slaves. Slavery, pickings, and carrying things. He had probably the most slaves at the time. I think he had the most slaves that president could have outside of maybe Jefferson. But that's besides the point. This also gave us the idea for the spoils system, which was essentially we were giving government jobs to supporters of a winning political candidate or party. Essentially, once President Andrew Jackson got the job as president, he essentially gave his cabinet, advisory board, and, well, the Supreme Court, all to his party. So the only people that could stop him was Congress, which didn't do much. Congress didn't really fight him because they were on his side already. So then we get something that he was successful, mostly because he decided to ignore someone. You'll notice this is a very common theme with Andrew Jackson. He vetoed the National Bank, mostly because Jackson felt that the bank was unconstitutional. Now, I'm a history nerd, and as you can tell based on how I'm doing this. But I watched the Hamilton musical multiple times. And, if you know anything about that musical, you would know that, the National Bank was created and devised by Alexander Hamilton, someone who he spent his life, like, hours, writing, like, 51 pages of saying how the Constitution, how to work the Constitution in them for the United States. That was his job. His job was to explain the Constitution to people. How was the bank that he made not constitutional? This made no sense. Anywho, this leads us right into nullification. And rightfully so, South Carolina decides to reject all federal tariff laws. I might want to also mention that South Carolina is also the first state to secede from the Union. South Carolina is a hot mess. Oh gosh. Next, our next 2 points are connected together, just like in the last slide. They are the Indian Removal Act, which was the act that Andrew Jackson enforced that forced Native Americans to relocate west in order to give their land to white settlers. This led into something known as the Trail of Tears, and I'm not sure if this is mentioned anywhere. Trail of Tears was a terrible thing. There was actually a group of people that decided to fight this, known as the Cherokee. They were a group of what was known as civilized natives who were forced off their homelands even after fighting and actually winning in court for 2 years in a row. Now, I love you all, and I hope you do well on your exams. I loved getting to work with y'all this year. So, good luck on those exams, and I hope you have fun with whoever's speaking next. Bye.